Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new Nancy Drew analysis video. Every Nancy Drew fan knows to expect one thing for certain when picking up a Nancy Drew game: puzzles. The series is chock full of spectacular, challenging, and sometimes mind-numbing puzzles. There's slider puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, classic puzzles like Sudoku or the Tower of Hanoi, logic puzzles, puzzle boxes, memory puzzles, tangrams, cooking puzzles, maze puzzles, math puzzles, science puzzles, painting puzzles. You get it. There's a lot of puzzles. Now, every Nancy Drew fan knows that there are some lovely puzzles that are a nice challenge and that add beautifully to the game. On the other hand, every Nancy Drew fan knows that there are some puzzles that make us fly into a rage and feel compelled to toss our laptop off the nearest cliff. This video is about those kinds of puzzles. In this video, I will be ranking the top 10 worst puzzles in the Nancy Drew series. So, let's get started. Just as a quick note, there will be no major plot spoilers or culprit spoilers in this video, but mild plot spoilers may inevitably occur. Please also note that I plan to be snarky in this ranking, but I genuinely love the Nancy Drew games with all my heart and soul, and I am only critical of them because they are treasures that deserve to be analyzed and remembered for decades to come. Now, what makes a bad puzzle in a mystery game? For those of you that have seen my analysis and review videos before, you know that I like to try and keep things as objective as possible. To do so, I've identified 3 criteria that I think make for a poorly executed puzzle. 1. The puzzle interrupts the momentum of the game. Nothing is more frustrating than being close to solving a mystery or catching a culprit than being completely and utterly thwarted by a puzzle. Halting the momentum of a game removes any suspense and intrigue that may have been present in the moment. 2. The puzzle is unnecessarily difficult or unclear. A detective should be able to understand what a puzzle needs in order to be solved, and should be able to solve the puzzle in a timely fashion. When a puzzle is made more difficult just to pad out game time, or when a puzzle is more difficult because it's utterly unclear what we need to do, that is a problem. And 3. The puzzle does not actually add to the mystery and is only there as a chore. We play games to get away from chores, so a puzzle that feels painfully tedious and that genuinely has no point to the solving of the mystery is just plain bad. I will also add that there are certain games that shall not be named that somehow commit the crime of having puzzles that are too easy. Somehow, I considered adding this to the criteria in the ranking, but an overly simplistic puzzle doesn't necessarily detract from the game, it just doesn't add anything, which is why I don't think it necessarily needs to be added to the criteria. We're looking for the worst puzzles, not the most mediocre puzzles. I've identified a list of some of the worst puzzles and ranked them on a scale of 1 to 3 stars on the poor puzzleometer. The more stars a puzzle receives on each of these 3 metrics, the worse the puzzle is. You'll find out quickly as we go through these rankings that all of the puzzles on this top 10 received either 7 or 8 stars, which means there are multiple puzzles that are about equally as bad. In the case of tiebreakers, I prioritize unnecessary as the biggest crime that a puzzle can commit, followed by too difficult, and finally, interrupting. So, without further preamble, let's get to ranking. Number 10, the ending alien machine puzzle from The Shattered Medallion. Now, if this was a subjective list, this puzzle would rank the highest for me. I really hate this puzzle. But this is an objective list, so let's be practical here, Wizard Kitten. Practically speaking, this puzzle is pretty necessary to the overall game. As much as anything in the Shattered Medallion can actually be relevant or necessary, This puzzle only gets 1 star on the poor puzzleometer in the unnecessary category, because it somehow became the only vaguely necessary part of the game. This puzzle and its ultimate answer, if you can even call it that, is the driving metaphor for what the whole mystery is supposed to be about, and Sunny's realizations about the quest that his grandfather left for him. That being said, this puzzle gets 3 stars in the categories of too difficult and interrupting. This is the end puzzle of the game, and there is little to no guidance about how it is supposed to be solved. The result is fellow detectives across the globe mindlessly spinning around these stupid blue discs, just begging the universe for something to happen. In all fairness, it can be figured out independently, but the fact that it is so unclear makes it problematic. Added on top of the fact that it is at the end of the game, when we just want to experience the resolution. All said and done, this puzzle is atrocious, and definitely belongs on this list. Number 9, the Stone Circle Sorting Puzzle from Labyrinth of Lies. Now this is the most complicated mess of stonemasonry that I have ever seen. In the end half of the game, Nancy is presented with this unbearably confusing puzzle. It receives 2 stars on the poor puzzleometer for interrupting the flow of the mystery because, without a walkthrough, this puzzle can take literal ages to solve. It doesn't receive 3 stars, but only because it's in the middle of the game and isn't actively stopping Nancy from doing something exciting. However, this puzzle does receive 3 stars on the poor puzzleometer for being far too difficult and unclear. The puzzle itself has a very specific set of rules regarding how you can move around the pieces and where they can fit, but that is not ever explained well to detectives. This puzzle also forces us to look up a lot of symbols and then hold those symbols in mind while also attempting to move them according to the very specific rules. I mean, it's just all too much. Combine that with the fact that this puzzle receives 2 stars on the poor puzzleometer for being a worthless chore. There is absolutely no reason that this puzzle needs to exist. We find a seal within the puzzle's hidden compartment, and a set of letters that could have simply been given to us by a character. Lord knows they do that enough anyway. What's stopping them from doing it here? Probably the fact that they just wanted to add an unnecessarily difficult puzzle to pad out game time rather than focus on creating an interesting story. Oop, tea! Number 8, the Mousetrap Puzzle from Trail of the Twister. Now this puzzle isn't terribly difficult, which means it only receives 1 star on the poor puzzleometer in that category. You will eventually get all the little squeaky miceys into their respective cubbies if you sit around patiently for long enough. But this puzzle commits the cardinal sin of being a completely unnecessary chore, and therefore receives 3 stars in that category. There is genuinely no point to this puzzle. If we didn't get rid of the mice, there would be no difference to the beginning, middle, or ending of this game's plot. It genuinely wouldn't matter. We already know that someone is luring mice into the house. We've already seen the little piles of corn and flashes of mice running around everywhere. That would have been enough. We gain nothing from getting rid of the mice except a couple script lines from some characters and a new location, which we could have found anyway without the mice. But what makes this puzzle really atrocious is that we have to do it 4 times. Not once, not twice, not thrice, 4 times. As such, this puzzle deserves 3 stars on the poor puzzleometer for interrupting the flow of the mystery because we have to do it so freaking much. Try not to get too comfortable, fellow detectives, thinking you might actually be making some headway in this mystery. Oh no, the mice are here to stop any momentum that you may have had. This puzzle brings the game to a screeching halt 4 times, and is therefore a very poor puzzle. Number 7, the colorful Sudoku puzzle from Ransom of the 7 Ships. Ah, Sudoku, a classic puzzle that the Her Interactive team contorts in so many different ways in an effort to be creative. To be fair, I like a good Sudoku. It's a classic for a reason, and I like the creative touch of using colors instead of numbers. What I don't like is that this particular colorful Sudoku puzzle happens to be at the bottom of an ocean, and Nancy runs out of her air supply approximately 10 to 12 times before this puzzle can be finished. Which means that Nancy gets to fit a couple pieces in the puzzle, resurface, sail back to the resort, walk back to the resort, fill up the air tank, walk back to the boat, sail back to the puzzle, dive down, and then hopefully fit a couple more pieces into the puzzle until you eventually decide that this just isn't worth it, and then drop your entire computer into the ocean to join this puzzle. So yes, this puzzle gets 3 stars on the poor puzzleometer for being unnecessarily difficult, and also 3 stars for interrupting any and all flow that this game might have, which to be fair, is not much. This puzzle also gets 2 stars for being an unnecessary chore. It doesn't get 3 because we do get one of the 6 rainbow pieces that are required for this game's treasure hunt, but 2 because there is just no reason that it needed to be this hard. If you're going to have a puzzle like this, give Nancy normal lungs, please, and thank you. Number 6, the chemical sorting puzzle from Haunting of Castle Malloy. I can't imagine what was going through the minds of the game developers when they were sitting around a table and said, "You know what sounds like fun? Let's have the rocket formula be way back on a table, right? And then let's have it blocked by about 50 other chemicals, right? And let's have the only way that you can access the rocket formula be that you have to sort these 50 other chemicals using a mechanical arm that has this really annoying screeching sound. And if you accidentally bump anything, then Nancy explodes and dies." So this puzzle is stupid, yeah? It earns 3 stars on the poor puzzleometer for being so unnecessarily difficult. It also gets 3 stars for interrupting the momentum of the game, because this is literally one of the last things you need to do to solve the case. We know who the culprit is. We know how we need to escape. We know what happened to Matt. The game is done. Don't make me sort chemicals. This puzzle also gets 2 stars for being an unnecessary chore, because while we do get the rocket formula from it, there's no reason that it needed to be this complicated. Couldn't we have cracked a safe or something? Or decoded a password somewhere? Or done literally anything else? Apparently not. Number 5, Fox and Geese from The White Wolf of Icicle Creek. Now you may be thinking, Wizard Kitten, what's so bad about a harmless little board game? Board games are fun, Wizard Kitten. To which I answer, indeed, I love board games. But do you know what I don't love? Being forced to stop all progress that I've made in this game so far, to sit down, play this blasted board game a minimum of 3 times, and be forced to win all 3 times? Do you know how tense I get when I play this game? I can feel my entire body seizing as I try desperately to not make a single wrong move. Because if you make a single wrong move or overlook even the teensy weeniest of things, then you lose, and you have to play this game again, because you cannot progress without winning it 3 freaking times. This game gets 3 stars on the poor puzzleometer for both interrupting the momentum and for being unnecessarily difficult. It would be fine if we had to win it once, and if it could be won by unlocking any of the 3 animals. But all 3? Can you not, game? This puzzle also gets 2 stars for being an unnecessary chore, because what it ultimately does is unlock tunnels that are presumably miles away. Don't ask me how on earth that works, because I couldn't tell you. There are so many different ways that the tunnels could have been unlocked that would have felt more organic and would have been significantly less stress-inducing. So yeah, this puzzle definitely makes the list. Number 4, the giant Sudoku puzzle from Shadow at the Water's Edge. Oh-ho, Sudoku, you sneaky little devil, you made it on this list twice. Impressive, truly. But why did you end up at number 4 on this list? Well, the Her Interactive team decided that it would be a good idea to take a normal Sudoku puzzle, you know, one that takes, maybe 10 to 15 minutes to solve depending on the difficulty, and multiply it by 5. Methinks this deserves 3 stars on the poor puzzleometer for being unnecessarily difficult, In no way should this Sudoku have been this large. A normal Sudoku, or better yet, a completely different paper and pencil puzzle that we haven't seen yet in this game, because, let's face it, most of us are Sudoku'd out at this point. That would have been so much better. This also leads into this puzzle receiving 3 stars for blocking momentum. When you solve this puzzle in real time, it can take upwards of 40 minutes, sometimes even more than an hour if you're playing on Senior Detective, or, Lord help you, if you accidentally make a mistake. In the middle of the game, that is so unnecessary, and again, forces you to halt when you could be doing something interesting. This puzzle also gets 2 stars on the Poor Puzzleometer for being an unnecessary chore, because what do you get for all of your efforts after trying to solve this puzzle? A password for a robotic cat. Could no one have Googled this? Yeesh. Number 3, the seed sorting puzzle from Labyrinth of Lies. Uh-oh, a repeat offender. Labyrinth of Lies, you have some explaining to do. It really does in all aspects, but for now, let's just focus on this puzzle. The biggest crime that this puzzle commits is being completely and utterly pointless. This is a long puzzle and can easily take 30 minutes or more. And what do you get when you finish this puzzle? A door unlocks. Do you know what also could have accomplished that purpose, game developers? A key? There is absolutely, unequivocally, no reason that this puzzle had to be here, and the fact that it takes place literally at the very, very end of the game makes it even worse. We know who the culprit is, we know what they're plotting, we know how to stop them, we know literally everything, and then the game throws this blasphemous mess in our faces. As such, this puzzle receives 3 stars on the Poor Puzzleometer for being both unnecessary and interrupting. It receives 2 stars for being difficult, because ultimately it isn't the hardest puzzle you'll ever find, but it is also much harder than it needs to be, given how big this dumb thing is. I genuinely do not understand the point of this puzzle, and that, fellow detectives, is a problem. Number 2, Olivia's coded to-do list puzzle from Midnight in Salem. Imagine you're in the middle of a cemetery and you've just found a secret message buried at the base of a tombstone. That's intriguing, right? But wait, the message is written in code. Ooh, this better be good. But then you start to try and decode this message and you quickly realize that this coded message, purposefully and secretly hidden in a cemetery, is a to-do list? Someone explain to me what the point of this puzzle is, because I genuinely can't figure it out. This puzzle is absolutely superfluous and receives 3 stars on the Poor Puzzleometer for being unnecessary. The only, I repeat, only thing that saves it from being the number 1 worst puzzle is that one of the items on the list, receive stock from L, is supposed to be some sort of clue. Spoiler alert, it's not, but it disguises itself that way. Literally nothing else about this puzzle is redeeming. It earns 3 stars for interrupting the flow of the mystery, because I don't think sitting in a cemetery decoding a freaking to-do list for about 30 minutes is on top of the list of things that drive a plot forward. It also receives 3 stars for being unnecessarily difficult. Never mind the fact that the message is buried with a decoder that's meant to decode it, not sneaky or smart, but it also is laggy and difficult to maneuver, the signs are teeny tiny and difficult to read, and the system is not clearly explained at any point in time. In short, this puzzle is stupid. And number 1, the gear puzzle from Trail of the Twister. Objectively speaking, I can say nothing in this puzzle's favor. This is also the second puzzle from Trail of the Twister that made this list, so good on ya, mate. The gear puzzle from Trail of the Twister is overly finicky and an absolute mess to solve. In my own personal gameplay time, this puzzle has genuinely taken me over an hour to solve without a walkthrough, to the point where I don't even try on my own anymore. And that is not the way a puzzle should work. It gets 3 stars for being difficult as all get out, and also 3 stars for interrupting the momentum of the game. This puzzle comes at a time in the game where Nancy is trucking along nicely in her mission of completing a never-ending list of chores. But then this bad boy comes up and brings the game to a screeching halt. I don't know what these gears are supposed to control on the car, but my guess is the brakes, because man do they stop this game in its tracks. But the worst, absolute worst thing about this puzzle is that it is the most unnecessary puzzle in the Nancy Drew series. Do we get to drive the car after fixing it? No. Do we find a clue within the car engine after fixing it? No. Do we learn something about car mechanics after fixing it? No. What happens after we fix this car? Chase talks to us. Never mind the fact that he willingly talks to us during the rest of the game anyway. This puzzle is so bad because it is the most unnecessary pile of nonsense that has been added to the games. It is blatantly added to pad out game time and adds nothing to the mystery, nothing to the plot, nothing to character development, and it's not even fun. If you're going to pad out game time, at least make the puzzle interesting. Phew. I'm calm. I'm fine. So, there you have it, fellow detectives. A definitive ranking of the top 10 worst puzzles in the Nancy Drew series. At the end here, please enjoy some flashes of honorable mention puzzles that received between 4 and 6 stars and therefore didn't quite make the list. As we wrap up this ranking, I think it's interesting to note that a puzzle did not make this list until game 16 out of 33. Meaning that games 1 through 15 were solid enough in the puzzle department to avoid my wrath. I think it's also interesting to point out that there are 3 very puzzle-heavy games that did not manage to make the list. Legend of the Crystal Skull, Tomb of the Lost Queen, and The Deadly Device. This is largely because these games, despite having multiple complicated puzzles, justified the existence of every single one and kept things varied enough to keep them engaging and not too terribly frustrating. So it can be done. Finally, another interesting note is that 2 games, Trail of the Twister and Labyrinth of Lies, managed to get 2 puzzles on this list, and 3 other games, Ransom of the 7 Ships, Shadow at the Water's Edge, and Midnight in Salem, had 1 puzzle make the list, as well as an honorable mention puzzle. What I think this reveals is that bad puzzles happen when aspects of a game are shoddy, ignored, or thrown in without any real explanation. The best Nancy Drew games and the best puzzles are so thoroughly thought out that you can't help but want to solve them. If you'd like to see my list of the 10 best puzzles, by the way, let me know in the comments down below. Good puzzles can add to a game just as surely as bad puzzles can ruin a game. So the lesson here really is, please don't add puzzles to a game just to make it longer. Puzzles have the potential to be fun, exciting, challenging, and engaging, and they deserve the same time and thought as any other aspect of a mystery game. Thank you so much for watching this video, fellow detectives. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Please feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and would like to see more similar. And let me know in the comments what you think of this ranking. Do you agree with me? Are there any other puzzles that you think deserve to be on this list? I would also love, love, love it if you would consider hitting that subscribe button. We are getting so close to 500 fellow detectives, and it absolutely blows my mind how fun it is to make these videos for you all and to get to talk Nancy Drew and Sims with this fabulous community. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.